We're cutting across to breaking news coming in of the BJP trying to Gherao Siddaramaiah's car with photos of Savarkar. This is the information that we're getting right now, and we're going to be putting out footage for you in just a bit of how these BJP workers attempted to, in fact, Gherao Siddaramaiah's car. This happened in Kodagu and clearly was a campaign. What you see on your on your screens, there's a poster that says "Go Back Siddaramaiah," and this is amid the showdown over Savarkar. These posters have been put up in Kodagu where Siddaramaiah is visiting, and amid that we also understand that BJP workers tried to Gherao his car with pictures of Savarkar. There you see that on your screens. In this convoy is where Siddaramaiah was travelling, and you see BJP workers gathered on the side holding up photos of Savarkar. This comes after Siddaramaiah just yesterday had in fact criticized Savarkar and the entire politics that we're witnessing in Tumakuru, in Udupi, as well as mainly in Shivamogga. And now these protests spreading to Kodagu as well. Siddaramaiah's car being surrounded there. You see them also trying to show these posters. Siddaramaiah seated in that car, looking around, wondering what's happening as these BJP workers are in fact trying to throw their posters inside featuring pictures of Savarkar as well. The police having a hard time pushing them aside. This is what's played out in Kodagu of Karnataka. The Savarkar fire showdown is in fact spreading across Karnataka. Nagarjun is joining us with more details on this. Nagarjun, ire that Siddaramaiah is facing now of the BJP workers, black flags being shown, "Go Back Siddaramaiah" posters, and now Savarkar pictures to greet him.
That is true. The Savarkar showdown has spread across Karnataka now. We saw Tumkur, Shivamogga, now it's to Kodagu district where Siddaramaiah is visiting on a personal note for visiting the flood victims and to see if the relief measures have been taken up. On the way in Ponnampet in Kodagu district, what has happened is right-wing organizations, BJP members have shown a black flag, also Savarkar photo to Siddaramaiah, who has been vehemently opposing Savarkar and saying Nehru was the real freedom fighter and not Savarkar. And what is the need of right-wing members to put up Savarkar photos in sensitive areas and Muslim-dominant areas? And that's the reason today the right-wing organizations are showing Savarkar photo to him. In fact, one person even threw that photo inside Siddaramaiah's car where he's sitting, and the photo landed on his lap. And Siddaramaiah, of course, is looking shocked, saying what is happening here. He has no clue what is happening there. He thought it was a protest happening, but later realized it was protest against him, where people are shouting, "Go back Siddaramaiah."
Okay, so these are images that we're playing out right now from Kodagu in Karnataka. Siddaramaiah was there, very close to Udupi. It's in South Karnataka, so it's clear that right now in South Karnataka, this is becoming a big talking point. The showdown over Savarkar and the BJP unrelenting. Yesterday, Siddaramaiah had made comments, Nagarjun, against Savarkar, and that's what's possibly prompted this kind of Gheraoing of his car and posters being thrown around.
That's absolutely right. Like I mentioned, Siddaramaiah said, what is the need of putting Savarkar photo in communal sensitive areas and Muslim dominant areas? What is his contribution to the land of India and to fight against the Britishers? In fact, not just Siddaramaiah, we saw how Congress workers in Udupi also threatened to take down the poster of Savarkar, saying he was not a freedom fighter. He was a person who wrote mercy petitions, who wrote mercy letters to the British asking forgiveness. So how can he be freedom fighter? Nehru and the legacy is something completely different is what the Congress stand is. But we have seen this taking a political turn with right-wing organizations, BJP taking it upon themselves to tell Siddaramaiah and the Congress that Savarkar also is a freedom fighter, and today it has come down to where people are showing black flags and throwing Savarkar photos inside Siddaramaiah's car.
You know, we've never seen this kind of politics in Karnataka before, Nagarjun. You know, where someone like a Savarkar has become the biggest talking point. This is clearly the BJP strategy of cornering the Congress yet again and essentially bringing up the Savarkar issue, which started off in Shivamogga and spreading it across Karnataka.
That is true. Savarkar was a Maharashtrian. He was never the main person in terms of the people looked up to in Karnataka. He was the regional satrap, in the sense regional freedom fighter from Maharashtra. Maharashtra people would adore him. But here in Karnataka, it could be Sangoli Rayana or Rani Lakshmi Bai, Kittur Rani Chennamma. They would be talked about. But now the whole trend of Savarkar has come into Karnataka also, and with due course it has become controversial as well. We have seen how Congress has vehemently opposed the Savarkar photo, saying he's not the real freedom fighter. We have seen how BJP government put up Savarkar photo on the Independence Day ad in newspapers and ignored Nehru. And Chief Minister also said that he boasted on before the Sangh and the nationalism of the party, and that's why the legacy of Nehru has to be forgotten, because he didn't do much. And Congress, as they are, they vehemently opposed Savarkar, and today also it has spread to Kodagu, which is just few hours distance from Mangalore and Udupi, where it was the epicenter before when the posters were put up.
Also done, the BJP right now, Nagarjun, while in fact going ahead and trying to Gherao Siddaramaiah's car in Kodagu, chanting pro-Savarkar slogans, anti-Siddaramaiah comments. You also see them pitting this as a face-off over, in fact, Tipu Sultan and Savarkar. So this is a clear strategy going forward in the elections.
That is true. In fact, the narrative itself will change. Till now, the Congress were talking about 40% commission, about how the cabinet reshuffle has not happened. The BJP has now redirected the narrative to Savarkar versus Nehru, freedom fighters versus of BJP versus Congress, and nationalism and patriotism. So really the BJP is setting the narrative and the perception for this election right now, bringing back the agenda from 40% commission to Savarkar versus Nehru, and the Congress too rightly is falling into the trap of the Savarkar versus Nehru agenda.
True, and serious questions will also be asked about this kind of security lapse. You can see that the BJP workers get very, very close to the former chief minister. They even managed to almost throw a flag into his vehicle. They're seen waving posters very close to him as he has his window down in the car that he's traveling in. Siddaramaiah seems taken aback when he sees all of those protests. You see that man there holding up the poster, throwing it inside the car in which Siddaramaiah is traveling. So questions about a serious security lapse as the cops struggle to contain the protesters. In a place like Kodagu, it's a clear strategy by the BJP, Nagarjun, to rake up the issue of Tipu Sultan, keeping in mind the sentiments there.
That is true. You remember back then when Siddaramaiah was chief minister, when Tipu Jayanti was celebrated, one person was dead also in the violence that took place in Kodagu. Kodagu has always been very sensitive communally and anti-Tipu, because the legacy of Tipu, according to Kodavas, is that he killed Kodagu people to capture their land, to capture their property, capture their money. Kodagus have always opposed Tipu Sultan, but when the Tipu Jayanti started during Siddaramaiah time, the whole Kodagu region always backed out of away from Congress, took a back step from Congress, and vehemently opposed Siddaramaiah too when the CM. Now it's the after effect. We saw the go back Siddaramaiah posters, which clearly says we don't want a student of Tipu Sultan to come to our district and teach us or meet our people. BJP is using this sentiment to propagate the narrative, and also using Savarkar as a tool today to make sure that Siddaramaiah and Congress are put in a corner in Kodagu district.